later down the track. So if you miss a session or the like, you can catch up, or if there was something that was said in particular that you wanted to see or hear again, you can go back to it. So what I'm going to do is just share some slides which cover off some of the admin and logistics side of things, and I will actually hand it straight over to Kathy, I think, to talk you through a few things there.
Great, thank you, Ken, and hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So we will be running these sessions live, and if you have any technical issues at all, please get in touch with me via email or text or phone. I can do lots of things in the background here, you'd be amazed. How you'll communicate with us throughout the session is via the chat, first and foremost. So you can chat to us via all panelists, which means Ken and I will see it, or you can also select all panelists and attendees if you'd like to share something with everyone else in the group. If you would like to speak verbally, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you, and you can ask a question or you can clarify a point that you'd like to make. If at any time your internet doesn't play nice, probably the best thing to do would be to shut down and restart and join again. That usually fixes most things. If not, you can dial in via the phone, and all that detail has been sent to you via email. But again, just get in touch with me if you're having any issues at all. And I think Fabian's just joined us, so maybe it's a good time to say good morning to Fabian and let you do a bit of an intro.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Just got a little bit of feedback there. I hope everyone's doing well. Ken, I'm still enjoying that mustache. It's growing on me. Well, it's growing more on you, but anyway, yeah, thanks everyone. I'm Fabian Marsh, Senior Manager for Road Safety at Whakatahi, New Zealand Transport Agency. Firstly, welcome to the course. Thank you so much for your participation and your support for the SAFE system. The SAFE system is something that will be and has been critical to the success of road safety in New Zealand. And we are looking to increase the ongoing use of SAFE system assessment framework in New Zealand. Hopefully by now you'll all be familiar with Road to Zero. We've coming up to a year now since Road to Zero was launched. Road to Zero is New Zealand's national road safety strategy. It sets us on a path towards Vision Zero. It doesn't talk so much about when that Vision Zero might be realised, but there are jurisdictions around the world looking at a 2050 Vision Zero or near Vision Zero level of serious road trauma. So that sets us on a path towards a future where no one is killed or seriously injured in road crashes in New Zealand, which is our ultimate vision. So whilst we're on that journey, the strategy does go so far as to set an interim target. And that interim target is that we want to reduce death and serious injury on our roads by 40% by 2030. So that 40% has been informed by a range of modelling that we've undertaken, and that modelling indicates that if we are to achieve that 40% target, then around half or over half of that target will need to come through infrastructure and speed measures, with around a quarter coming from vehicle safety measures and the remainder coming from a mix of other interventions, which are generally your education and enforcement measures. So this highlights ultimately the critical role that infrastructure and speed will need to play if we're to achieve the target, and then ultimately on our journey towards Vision Zero. So hopefully you'll realise that Road to Zero is underpinned by the SAFE system. If we are to achieve at or near Vision Zero levels of road trauma, then we will need to create a SAFE system. And the SAFE system takes a proactive and holistic approach to managing the interactions between roads, vehicles, speeds and people to ensure that when crashes occur, ultimately the resulting forces do not exceed the physical limits of the human body. And I think an example of that I'd just like to share with you is I was just looking back at my time working in road safety, but also more of a personal experience actually. I was making my way back to the airport in Hamilton, Hawke's Bay, Napier, Hawke's Bay, a number of years ago, and I was trying to turn right at an intersection, Watchman Road. And about a decade or so ago, there were some decisions being made following road safety audits around what that intersection should look like. And a roundabout was one of the options, but it was discounted at the time for various reasons, cost being one, but primarily the perception of the impact that it has on travel time and traffic, with people having to slow down for a short amount of time. So the ultimate decision was made to put in a seagull at that intersection, and we found that it actually it was done on the grounds of safety, and it was done in response to a road safety audit. But what was actually found was that we ended up seeing a lot of fatal and serious crashes as a result of that. And the reason being is that we hadn't really addressed the primary conflict at that intersection, which was right turning in and right turning out. There was nothing slowing people down, and when something went wrong, as it inevitably did, people would end up being involved in serious crashes. And I myself was actually in a very near miss. I was looking to turn right out of the junction. It was pretty busy that day on the way to the airport, and I pulled out in front of a truck. And I would like to say it was a little bit too close for comfort. We looked at each other's and we could see the whites of each other's eyes. And I think it's just that. I mean, a lot of people aren't there doing behaving recklessly, but just something as simple as that, a small error of judgment. Maybe you've misjudged the speed of the vehicle approaching, and you pull out in front, and if something goes wrong at those speeds, it can be fatal. I guess on the positive side of that is in recent years that junction has now been upgraded to a roundabout. And what that's done is it's really taken a safe system approach to the conflict and the issue at that point. So what we've done is the roundabout reduces significantly the number of conflict points. So the chances of conflict reduced quite significantly. And then you've got the fact that people have to slow down to negotiate the roundabout. And if there is a crash, the angle of impact is far less side on. So ultimately, there will still be crashes there, but they will generally be survivable. And I think that's the approach that the safe system tries to take, is to make sure that if and when inevitably things go wrong, the forces are managed and people aren't killed or seriously injured as a result. And we, as a design community, have a responsibility where we can provide these sorts of measures, is the decisions we make do have an impact on the outcome, and as that example clearly highlights. So another important thing is to appreciate that not all infrastructure measures are the same. Some are going to be more effective than others. Infrastructure interventions can be characterized as primary or supportive. Primary treatments are those that align closely to safe system outcomes. An example of a primary treatment would be the roundabout I just mentioned before, also median barriers. Median barriers reduce head-on fatal crashes by more than 90%. Whilst supportive treatments provide incremental safety gains, but they won't achieve the same levels of safe systems. So an example of a supportive treatment would be like a wide centre line with rumble strips. The wide centre line will reduce the likelihood of a head-on crash, but it's going to be far less likely to reduce the severity of a crash should one occur. And I'd encourage you, if you haven't already, is to look at the supporting action plan for the current 2020 to 2022 period that supports Road to Zero. It does provide some discussion around primary safety treatments. It also highlights that we as designers should be incorporating primary treatments wherever possible. The starting point is Vision Zero. We're signed up to Vision Zero now. So we should be looking to achieve safe system designs and implementation wherever possible as our starting point. There may be occasions where we can't achieve that, but we need to start with that in mind and work our way backwards from there. So road safety, the Road to Zero also includes a number of actions to embed safe system into our standards and guidelines in the way that we work. And this includes an update to our road safety audit guidance to embed the safe system, which is something we're currently working on. Currently in New Zealand, road safety audits are required for relevant projects to obtain funding from the National Land Transport Program. NZTA's current road safety audit procedures are taking currently being worked through an update so that we can better embed safe system. In lieu of the road safety audit procedures, we should use the Austroads Safe System Assessment Framework as our guide as part of our infrastructure planning and design process to ensure that we're embedding and making decisions that result in greater safe system incorporation into our decision making, with a view to making more primary safe system infrastructure outcomes on the network. So with that in mind, through this course, you'll gain a greater, more in-depth understanding of the safe system principles, how they apply to roads and roadsides, as well as the role of safe system assessments in driving primary safe system outcomes. So I'd just like to reinforce that we, and you particularly as designers and people that influence designers through road safety audits and safe system assessments, have the ability to provide information, make decisions, assist decision makers to make those decisions that are going to incorporate greater safe system outcomes. So it makes the safe system assessment helps us to ensure that we're making those good decisions. Ultimately, you can help make that difference, and you could be the difference between an optimal safe system outcome or something that might be you know, a safer infrastructure measure, but won't get the same sort of level of outcome. So these sorts of decisions, using the safe system assessment framework, your leadership, your involvement could be the difference in getting a step change in road safety performance in New Zealand. So thanks again, and thank you for your support for this course. Thank you for your commitment, and I wish you very well throughout the duration of the course. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fabian. And that sets a beautiful platform for us to launch into this training course. So we'll definitely be building on some of those themes and messages you just laid down, and we'll be honing into the details of how to do that safe system assessment. So thank you very much, and we'll carry on with some of the logistics and then get into that meaty safe system content.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Enjoy.
Okay. Now I'm going to reshare my slides there, Kathy. Hopefully that'll work. Is that there?
Yep, perfect. Thanks, Ken. So I think that was it for that one. Some of you have already been in touch for any technical issues, so that's good. Oh yes, raise your hand if you'd like to be unmuted, and we'll unmute you and you can ask a question or clarify a point that you'd like to make. And ask questions throughout the session, so you don't have to wait for the pauses. We will pause along the way, but you can type your questions through. If you can't use the chat or you'd like to ask a question not anonymously, you can use the Q&A function as well.
Thanks, Kathy. And yeah, we do really encourage that questions, comments in the chat, keep them coming through. We really like to get that interaction and try and answer those questions. If we don't get to them in the time, we can always roll them into the next one or answer them via email to everybody or through Schoology. So this is me without a moustache. I've grown my mo during my many hundreds of days of lockdown here in Melbourne. And I'm the Principal Engineer at Safe System Solutions. I've popped a little QR code there, which gets you to my LinkedIn page, because I do love to continue the conversation about Safe System and its implementation as we go. So I'm sure you know how to use a QR code, but you just open up the camera on your phone, hover it over there, and it will take you straight there. So connect with me, and that way we can continue sort of exploring safe system implementation throughout. And I'll leave the little QR code down the bottom corner there at any time if you want to just find that. But throughout this course, if you are struggling with any of the content, or the like, get in contact with me. My details are there, and we will help you through any of these challenges. We're here to ensure that you build up your level of competency in safe system assessments, and I'm sure you'll do well. Maybe back to you, Kathy, to explain Schoology.
Thank you. Yeah, so lots of people have jumped on and joined Schoology. Thank you for that. As you would have found, and you would have introduced yourself as well to the rest of the group, that's where we'll put all the recordings. So if you do miss any sessions throughout the program, the recording will be available in that module folder shortly afterwards. And that's where you'll complete a quiz after every module. So after every one of these live sessions, there'll be a short multiple choice style quiz for you to complete, as well as completing 2 assignments, which Ken will go through in more details as well. If at any time, Schoology tends to work at its finest when it's in Google Chrome. So if you're having any trouble with it, try using Google Chrome as your browser. But again, just please get in touch with me if it's not playing nice with you, or if you need to email an assignment through or anything like that. Otherwise, all the content is there. It's a duplication of what's on your USB as well, so there's plenty of opportunities for you to get the materials that you need.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. And yeah, so hopefully you got a pack in the post, but if you didn't, don't worry. It's all in Schoology there, so you'll be able to access it, and we cover it all in the live sessions. So plenty of opportunity there. One of the other little things we've included just to keep you engaged with the slides is Wally the Wombat. That's a picture of Wally the Wombat there, a Wally the Wombat warning sign. Wally the Wombat appears a number of times throughout the slides that we show. And your task is to count the number of times for each module that Wally appears. So that way we know you're sort of at least watching the slides, you're not writing the emails on the side, or designing a new roundabout on the side. You're engaged in the content. And that will be one of the questions in the end of module quizzes that you have. So the quizzes will be some of the content that we cover, and then there'll be one question: how many Wallies appeared? We give you a little bit of tolerance either side in case you maybe getting a glass of water or something at the time, but we want you to be having a look out for Wally. And we do give prizes out. So we might give a prize out to the person who is the most accurate with Wallies over the whole course. But we do give out spot prizes quite often. And you're probably wondering, how do you do that? Well, Kathy's there in the prize pit, as you can see. When you are the first to answer a question correctly or the like, Kathy reaches back and, yes, gets a prize like that pair of socks, it looks like. So lots of random prizes on offer. And what we do is at the end of the course, once you successfully complete all the tasks and you get past the average mark we've set, which is 80%, I'll talk about that shortly, we email you a copy of your certificate, but we also post you a hard copy of your certificate. And in the pack, we put any prizes that you've won throughout the course. So I encourage you to answer your questions quickly, and it'll be first in on the chat will be the one that wins the prize. First in with correct answer, but also in order to make sure to try to encourage you to get in early into the sessions, 3 minutes or so before the session starts, we'll do some trivia, and we'll give out prizes before the session even starts. So log in a little bit early and you can grab a few prizes before we even begin. So that'll start from next session. This Wally doesn't count. This is just for demonstration purposes only. So your Wally count at the moment is 0. You're on 0 Wallies. So we ask that you attend at least 4 of the 5 live webinars. We'd love you to attend them all and interact and ask questions and put your hand up and speak and all that. But we understand you're busy, you've got lots on the go, and there's unavoidable things. So you can catch up on one by watching the recording, but you still have to do the quiz and any assignments for that module. And we need you to satisfactorily complete all the set tasks. So the quizzes at the end, assignments, exercises, and the safe system assessment, which is our last big task. And we do set a pretty high benchmark here. We need an 80% pass mark. So an average 80% for the quizzes and assignments. We are here to help you get over that bar. And I think if you watch all the sessions, you'll find that you won't have too much trouble doing that. You do get up to 3 attempts on everything. So if you really struggle on one of the quizzes or the assignment and get a low mark on your first attempt, I really encourage you to get in contact with me. Organise a one-on-one catch up. We'll talk through some of the areas that you maybe have not quite understood. But we are here to help you get over that mark. We certainly love continuing to hone in on some of those areas that you find challenging. Anything else to add there, Kathy?
No, I think you've covered it all, Ken. Terrific.
Good. Well, if anybody has any questions about the logistics, the running of the course, please pop them into the chat or the Q&A, and Kathy will get to those. So Kathy's going to be monitoring that chat. I can't do 2 things at once, unlike Kathy. So I just concentrate on the presenting, and Kathy behind the scene runs the whole show. We'll pause along the way a couple of times quite a few times where Kathy will ask questions that you've fed through, and we've got some little polls and quizzes and the like as we go. Right, so let's get into some of the content. And I'm going to start out at a pretty high, broad level about the SAFE system. Now, when I looked at your introductions and looked down the list of names here and the positions that you sit in, I said to myself, this is a group that has a great level of existing knowledge about the SAFE system and SAFE system principles. So some of you have really been leading the way in this space across Australia and New Zealand and probably the world in different areas. But what I'm going to do is contextualize a lot of the stuff in the SAFE system assessment framework, which is this tool that we have available to us. So while it may be some of the same principles that you're quite aware of, I'll try to contextualize that so we're seeing SAFE system assessments that incorporate those principles and present them to projects, designers, or others in a really clear and consistent manner. And that's going to be a great advantage across New Zealand. So what we want to do in this first session is just recap those principles and elements of the SAFE system. We want to start talking about the kinetic energy thresholds of different crash types. And we want to explain the difference between the traditional approach to road safety and the SAFE system approach. Have a look at some best practice in terms of behavioural change initiatives and vehicle safety initiatives, and give reasons why speed is such a critical element of the SAFE system. I'll be nice to you here. This is one Wally, you're on one. That's it, no more being nice about Wally. You'll have to find them yourself. Fabian set a lovely platform there talking about Road to Zero. And I think you've done a great job there, and it sets a wonderful vision. And you've got a lot of hard work to do. There's no denying that. But putting it down there and committing to it is a first wonderful step. And when I was reading through it, I took particular note of a few things. Well, I took note of a lot of things, but one that's very relevant for this course is some of those key measures that are in there around the people who have completed an approved SAFE system training course and have improved understanding of SAFE system. So that's a pretty exciting one. And I firmly believe the more people we can skill up with those principles and our understanding of the SAFE system, the more it becomes run-of-the-mill in their process. And so that's a great way to do things. And then this next one down here, which talks about SAFE system assessments. So the percentage of infrastructure projects that have been subject to road safety audit and/or SAFE system assessments. So that's a great step as well. And one of the things that we've found over the many years of road safety audits is that you get huge value with road safety audits over their 25 years or so that they've been being done in New Zealand. They have not only injected road safety into specific projects, but they've actually been an education tool for designers and project managers, because somebody is looking very much at safety and then feeding information back to these designers and project managers and the like, who learn from that. Now, SAFE system assessments have some similarities with road safety audits. We'll talk about the details of that later. But that idea that we can be at every project injecting SAFE system thinking into that project, fantastic, but also educating and encouraging designers, project managers who may not have these specific road safety focuses to be thinking about SAFE system and understanding what it is and getting that feedback loop. So those are huge wins, and I think you'll have wonderful success by just integrating this process into all big infrastructure projects. Okay, So the SAFE system, and there's many diagrams of the SAFE system out there, and I'm going to take you a little bit back in time, and I'm going to take you back to some of the early diagrams of the SAFE system. And this is a very, very early one, this was sort of first floated in Australia and New Zealand quite a while back. And in fact, this was actually tabled at Austroads back in a year where everybody was sitting around, and there was general commitment to it at an Austroads level, and definitely at an Australian national level. And I think New Zealand was sort of playing around with the idea. But if somebody can tell me what year that was, where that was all emerging as this big thing and this philosophy that we should be taking in the management of the road system, you'll win a prize. So first person to pop that year in, and you can guess as many times as you want, and Kathy will monitor that and find the year. Hopefully, Kathy, you know the year I'm talking about. So this diagram's quite fascinating, really, when it was first produced, for a number of reasons, but I'm going to hone in on one reason. It's sort of this interesting system with these elements, which is a little bit, you know, still we still see similar things to this, but we've got the vehicles, we've got the roads and the roadsides, and we've got the speed. In the middle, we've got this human tolerance to physical force. And that was pretty much it. Now, I'm going to pause there and see if anybody's got the year, Kathy.
Oh, just confirming, the year was 2004?
Correct.
Whew, phew. Excellent. It was Adam.
Adam, well done. First prize winner. Looks like your feet will be warm, Adam, with those lovely socks. So 2004, which is a long time ago, really, in the scheme of things. So we've been committed to this SAFE system across Australia and New Zealand since about then. It's taken us quite a while to sort of establish some processes and systems and really start to see it as something that we are committed to, but nonetheless. But these early days, the thing that fascinates me about this was that there's the speed, the vehicles, the roads and roadsides, the human tolerance to physical force. You'll notice there that safer people, or, you know, this idea of improving the people wasn't even part of the system. And that was a conscious decision at this point. But just before it got sort of endorsed at a federal government level in Australia, they chucked in this alert and compliant road user. And there's a lot of us at the time who said that this was a bit of a failure. It just gives a lot of people a get out of jail clause in terms of, well, they weren't alert or they weren't compliant. So, you know, the death and serious injury is really their fault. And that's really an attitude we're trying to push back against in the SAFE system, that we want to create a safe system for people who are human and are going to make mistakes and are not going to be alert all the time and are not going to be compliant all the time. And we should have our system intervening to stop that. Now, don't get confused into thinking then that we don't care about trying to improve people in terms of the way they use the road network. Yes, we want to continue to improve and get people better and better as much as we can. But the reality is we know humans fail all the time, and that's going to continue to happen. So we need to keep working on that. But we've evolved then from this system, and there's lots of different diagrams that come out there, different old ones you might recognize. But what New Zealand's using at the moment, sort of to encapsulate the strategy and this sort of thinking, is this diagram. And I really like it for quite a number of reasons. We're starting to see more of an intertwined system rather than these distinct pillars or elements. And that interaction between elements of the SAFE system is something that, that people sort of have forgotten in trying to simplify it in a very extreme way. And you'll notice that throughout everything I do, I always talk about the elements of the SAFE system. And it's a conscious decision to use that word elements rather than pillars. because of that intertwining interaction between these elements. And they all interact. Pillars to me gives this sort of silo image of, you know, the roads working by themselves and the vehicles working by themselves and the people working by themselves. And we know that's not the case. We know they all work intertwined and together. And so the diagram, I like to see that sort of interaction to it, the vision at the center, and lots of principles around the outside there. So strengthening all parts of the road transport system, designed for human vulnerability, and that's that human tolerance to physical force, which we'll certainly be delving into a lot because it's an integral part of a safe system. A shared responsibility for improving safety. So where I said, you know, that idea that people could say, well, they ran a red light, it's their fault. There is no more of that sort of thinking under the safe system. It's saying that was a system failure, and what could we look at to strengthen any part of that system to mean that either that doesn't happen, or when it happens, it doesn't result in death or serious injury. Actions that are grounded in evidence and evaluated. And that's one that I think is so important to the safe system because we play in the road safety space and is often sort of not recognised or identified in a lot of strategies and the like. The fact is that every road user out there has an opinion on our industry and how they can best achieve reductions in fatal and serious injury. And that's their opinion. And that's fine, and we can listen to those sorts of things. But what we need to do is make those decisions that are evidence-based. The biggest trap that people fall into in our industry is to make decisions based on their personal experience and say, well, that's how I drive that road or the like, and so that is why I've made that decision. We need to do it evidence-based because we as individuals are not representative samples of the community. So always looking for evidence and making decisions based on the evidence and the research and the like. So that's a really wonderful step. Our road safety actions support health, well-being and livable places. So this is another emerging one, but we have wonderful leverage off the idea of livable cities and enhanced livability. And they just go hand in hand with safe system a lot of the time. So it's a wonderful thing to talk to the community about making their area more livable, more friendly to active transport, less environmentally damaging, and all of the time knowing that we're going to be saving the lives and the health of their community as well. We make safety a critical decision-making priority. So that is one where safe system assessments are really going to, come out because it helps in decision-making, and it shows clearly how safe system thinking fits into some of those decisions. And we promote good choices, but plan for mistakes. So recognition that humans are fallible, that we make mistakes, and we need to plan for those mistakes. We've come from a long generation of our industry that have tried to eliminate mistakes from the road network and done a pretty good job in reducing the number of mistakes, but really to a big degree ignored the consequence of those mistakes. So wonderful principles there, and some of these elements that we have in here, so vehicle safety, infrastructure, system management, road user choices, work-related road safety, which I think is an interesting one to put in there, and something that that again we can leverage a lot from. So what a wonderful diagram there. And those principles there, which I've just been through, I think are a great set of principles for us to be launching into our safe system assessments with. So I'll come back to those as we go and talk about them. But I want to start with this little analogy, and I've talked to some of you before about this, but I think it really, to me, captures this challenge that people have in our industry, but in the community as well. And the challenge is that they say that, you know, we talk about these vision zeros, or, you know, getting the road network and the transport network virtually free of death and serious injury, and that they switch off. It is just inconceivable to them that this could ever possibly happen. Grown up with people being killed or seriously injured on the road. They know people just do stupid stuff out there, and they just go, it's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. So what we like to do is sort of say, well, okay, it is a very open, free system that people are traveling around in with lots of, you know, challenges out there for us to deal with. But let's have a look at another industry, or let's see if we can learn from other industries in the way they've attacked their safety culture. And the industry I'm going to just pick for this analogy is the manufacturing industry, and so the factories. And I'm going to go back in time to this widget factory we've got here. And there was a time where this widget factory was a fairly open system, not that unlike the transport system in terms of the people that were using it. So they needed to be, you know, they needed to be somehow employed or something, which is somewhat like having a license of some description. But there were others wandering in and out, like maybe similar to the way pedestrians wander in and out of our system and not requiring licenses and the like. But really the lowest level of safety culture is what we call this pathological safety culture, where everybody, so it's up to everybody to protect themselves the best they can. And sure, the factory owner will tell these kids who are employed to or paid a little bit of money to clean the machines and collect the rubbish and the like. They're told, you know, these are dangerous machines. You know, watch out for this. Don't do that. And off you go. And be careful. You know, safety is your responsibility. And you know, the factory ticks along, and some of these kids are killed, and some workers have their arms ripped off, and there's different. There's quite a sort of high level of trauma. And you elevate up to this reactive safety culture, which is to solve some of those safety problems as they come along. So we've seen the machines rip a couple of arms off, and so it's time to do something about that machine. And we've recognised that you know, that other machine's got you know, killed somebody. We'll do something about that one. So you've got this sort of reactive safety culture, and then the economists get involved. And the economists come in and they have a look at the factory and how it's operating, and they look at the books, and they say, okay, so you've had quite a bit of downtime here from your machines being stopped because they've injured somebody, or you're paying out quite a bit of money to families when the breadwinner's been crushed in the machinery, or the kids lost their arm or leg. You know, I think that if you follow this plan that I've got down and fix these different bits, you can actually save some money. And I've come up with this new thing, and it's called a benefit cost ratio. And if you spend £20,000, it was pounds back in these days, you spend £20,000 across your factories, you will get a return of £60,000 in widget production. And the factory owner, so that sounds like a good investment. We'll do that. And so then they go out and they do some work on some specific higher risk machines. So that's that balancing and trying to find that balance between the number of people that are killed and number of arms that are ripped off and the like in the machines with the cost and the widget production. But then you elevate up to this proactive safety culture. And this is where it says that you must achieve this very high level of safety, and you can produce as many widgets up to that as you can. But the safety level sets the precondition for widget production, or on the road network, of course, mobility. This is sort of our highest level of safety culture and what we aspire to under the SAFE system, where there's this sort of mandatory high level of safety, and we will do everything else up to that that we can. It's not that balance and trade-off of human life. And of course, once you're at that level, you need to continually invest in maintaining that level. It doesn't just stay at that level. It's a continual investment. So when we look at the road network in New Zealand and the operation and the planning and the design of the road network, where do we sit in this? And I dare say that it's probably actually little bits of all of them. Yeah, there's definitely pathological stuff. There's definitely that attitude of saying to the 18-year-old that's just got their license, it's dangerous out there and it's your responsibility to protect yourself. And it is dangerous out there, and there are areas where a small mistake by that 18-year-old will potentially result in death or lifelong debilitating injury. But certainly reactive programs are still in existence. Calculating programs are still in existence, but there is stuff moving into that more proactive whole of road space. And certainly New Zealand's an area that a lot of Australia looks to in some of these proactive areas. But we want to see this continue to move up this scale. And it's going to be a challenge. But we're in it for the long haul, and we love a challenge. Okay, Kathy, it's about time we have a quiz, but I better pause and see if anybody's got any questions or comments that have come in on the chat.
No questions or comments on the chat, and have just launched that poll, so it should have been a pop-up on your screen. Hopefully everyone's got that. If nothing has popped up on your screen, do get in touch and let me know.
And I should say that the first question we've sort of covered. The second question we have not, and you just get to make a guess at it. So we haven't covered the second question. Don't worry, you haven't sort of had a little micro sleep and missed a whole little discussion there, but just have a guess at the second question. So for those who, for any reason, can't see this, the first question is, which of the following is not a key principle of the SAFE system? Aim for no death or serious injury, aim for no mistakes on the road, people are vulnerable, people make mistakes, and there's a shared responsibility. And the second one is asking about Usain Bolt, the fastest human we had. I don't think he's the fastest human anymore. But what speed did he cross the finish line in his world record 100-meter sprint, which I think was in Germany? So what was that travel speed in kilometers per hour? And some of you are probably madly doing a little bit of math on the side. I should say with these quizzes, you are not marked on these. These are just for interaction during the session. The ones you're actually marked on are after the session. So feel free to just have a guess and not be too concerned. We don't even know who's answering what. So you're free to just pop in what you want. So we're seeing lots of answers coming in. That's good. We'll give you a couple more seconds And then we're going to have to keep moving along, I think, Kathy.
Yep, we might close that one off in 3 more seconds. Any last chances to pop your answers in now if you haven't done so? Okay.
Good job. Let's share those results. So, which of the following is not a key principle of a safe system? So, I didn't cover these in exactly the words I've put here, which are some words other jurisdictions like to use, but the sort of principles we've been talking about there is that we would absolutely love nobody to make a mistake on the road network, but it's not something that we're going to aim at because we're still, we understand humans make mistakes. So what we're more trying to do is manage those mistakes. Minimize and manage is the way I like to talk about mistakes on the road network. So most of you are very much along that line of thinking. And the Usain Bolt one, there you go, a group that can do their conversion from meters per second to kilometers per hour very quickly. 44 kilometers per hour is the correct answer, which most of you got. So, question I suppose is, why am I asking about Usain Bolt as part of a safe system assessment training? Well, I like to use this as my analogy on human tolerance to physical force. So Usain Bolt has come in up there. I'll bring Usain back in a second, actually. These are curves that I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. You've seen a lot, and you've probably seen different variations and different analysis around this. But what this is, for those who aren't as familiar with it, this is the chance of death, the fatality probability. And down the bottom here, we've got the collision speed in kilometers per hour, not the speed limit, okay? Don't get those confused. This is collision speed, actual speed of impact. And this is for a passenger vehicle striking a pedestrian, anybody in the community. And this is for all of sort of community. And what we see here is around 10 or 20 kilometers per hour, it is highly likely the pedestrian will survive. Up here around 60 kilometers per hour, it's highly likely that the pedestrian will be killed. And we see this exponential kick up at around 30 kilometers per hour. That's where it really gets very serious very quickly. As I said, Usain Bolt comes in up there and his running speed. And so if we were to park a car at the end of his lane and he came crashing into it at 44 kilometers per hour, will he survive? Well, the theory is that he will survive because he's the hulk of a human and he has this, you know, he can withstand a lot of force. Us mere mortals flung at that car at 44 kilometers per hour, or the car flung at us at 44 kilometers per hour, much less likely to survive that. And remember, this curve, though, is for the whole population, with some people who are more frail and kids and old people and also people like Usain Bolt as well. So the thing is that humans evolved to a degree to withstand the force of their own running speed. Maximum speed is somewhere around the force that you can handle running into a tree or the like. So your maximum running speed is about your tolerance to physical force, which is going to be our assignment at the end of this module. You've got to run as fast as you can at a tree and just make sure you survive. No, of course we won't, but that in theory should work. But that 30 kilometers per hour for our population is a really important sort of mark, the 30 kilometer per hour. These are the kind of impacts that we are able to handle. So hopefully that streams for you. We've popped the video into your on your memory stick, and you know, we as humans handle that type of force. He broke a few ribs, but recovered, led a normal, healthy life. Went on to win a gold medal a few months later, or a year later or something. So That's the kind of stuff that we're able to handle. But these vehicles propelling at us, or that we're in or on, going much faster than what we were ever designed to withstand. We have this sort of data and information for, oh, Kathy, is there a question?
Thanks for picking that up, Ken. The research for the data on these graphs, where's that, or where can we locate that one?
Yeah, so that I'll send around some of it. So Austroads has used it quite a bit. It's actually European research, and as I understand, the research was done in a fairly interesting manner, which was associated with the use of the e-call systems in vehicles, where the so basically in Europe, there's mandated e-call for, and it's been around for quite a while, which is basically a device inbuilt into your car that calls the emergency services when there's been an incident. And not only does it call them, it says, you know, I've crashed. This is the car talking. I've crashed here, and I've crashed in this manner. So expect these injuries when you arrive. So I've, you know, side impacted a pole. Expect head injuries, or I've had some sort of frontal impact with another vehicle. So expect these injuries. And as I understand, that was correlated to hospital admissions to get an understanding of the speed, because the vehicle knew the speeds or had a good idea, and some crash investigation reports and the like. The thing is, though, that there is a lot of research going on in the Southern Hemisphere into recreating these curves and adding more things. And so these ones, by some people in the safe system industry, people say, oh, they're old, or they're only fatality curves. What about serious injuries? And others saying, well, that's, there's these discrepancies. I don't get too fussed on that minute detail. I mean, I'm very interested as new things come out, and I'll show you some of the new curves later. But for now, and I'll continue and come back to this, us taking this 10% line, you'll see us running that 10% line and using those as some sort of benchmark style speeds, or to gauge our thinking, is a really good starting place. Now, we may need to come down from some of these, but we're so far from these in the most of our road environment. This is a great sort of starting spot. We can continue to debate that as we go. But we do have these curves for other crash types. So this green one was passenger vehicle striking pedestrian. For passenger vehicle right angle impact, T-bone crash, the bullet vehicle speed, the bullet vehicle, we call it the bullet vehicle in the industry. So that is the one that does the striking and the damage. The target vehicle here is the one that's going to have the injury to the occupant. So bullet vehicle speed down the bottom here, we see around 30 or 40 kilometers per hour at this right angle crash is likely to be survivable. Where it gets really bad really quickly is around that 50 kilometer per hour mark. And we know this for head-on crashes as well. And it's around the sort of 50, 60 kilometers per hour. We know it's highly survivable. And that's sort of 60 kilometers per hour for each vehicle. So a closing speed of 120 kilometers per hour. But the energy forces actually on the occupants are a 60 kilometer per hour crash, because the occupant of the vehicle goes from 60 kilometers per hour to 0, assuming same weight, same speed, and that they crash there. And there is a little Mythbusters episode which you can Google and find, that deals with exactly this force topic and does some crashing of cars. So I encourage you to watch Mythbusters on work time. But so that graph we have there sort of does only fatality probability, and sort of you can see that it's a spectrum, but it doesn't sort of show it in this way. What we've tried to create here is a little bit of help in your safe system assessments, because what we actually are going to ask you to do down the track in the safe system assessment is to put a score between 0 and 4 on the severity outcome of the crashes that you're predicting. 4 being the most severe. You know, we're thinking this is very sure to cause death or serious injury if that crash happens at those speeds and those angles with those road users in that crash type. 0 being this is highly unlikely to cause death or serious injury. There might be some minor scrapes and bumps and bruises, but highly unlikely to be causing death or serious injury. And so we've created this one based off a variety of different bits of research from the Centre for Automotive Safety Research in Adelaide, who is sort of leading the way with a lot of this biomechanical tolerance injury stuff, to some of those existing European stuff, some of the new motorcycle stuff that's been produced out of Sweden, and anything else that we can sort of get our hand on. And you can see that it's a bit of a shade there. And these are different crash types with pedestrians, motorcyclists, side impact car to car. We've tried to put in heavy vehicles, which is a bit of a judgment call because we're not finding too many people have done that research into those forces. But you can see there the numbers correlating to a likelihood of death and serious injury. Now, these are going to continue to get massaged and moved around, and these are what we've come up with so far. And we'll continue to take feedback on it and alter it. So I put it in there because it's a great starting point, and it'll help you in getting those scores for your safe system assessment. But I suppose this has not been peer reviewed yet, so take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. This diagram, the traditional diagram of crash causation, is the bane of my existence. Well, amongst other things. And it's not because it's wrong. It's because of the way it's used. So this diagram it pops up all the time in people in road safety. And it's based off these studies which have looked at thousands of crashes and tried to drill down to crash causation. So crash causation studies. It happens about every 10 years that somebody does the world's biggest crash causation study. And, you know, there it comes out again, and it says somewhere in the order of 85% to 95% of crash causation is driver error or road user error. A lot of them are very driver related, but road user error we can say. Then a small percentage is the road, and an even smaller percentage is the vehicle, and sometimes there's that overlapping interaction, the sort of human factors style stuff that intertwines. And I don't dispute any of that research. But the issue is that every time we show this diagram and push it forward, people's natural reaction is to attack the biggest cause and say, we need to change the humans. We need to fix those drivers. We need to fix those pedestrians, stop them making those mistakes. And that's part of what we need to do. But what we need to get our head around, and we're finally doing with the safe system, is to say, just because that is 90% of the cause, it does not necessarily mean it is 90% of the solution. And so what we need to do is move to a system thinking and understand that just because the humans are causing the crashes doesn't mean changing the humans is the way to do it. It might be that we change the road environment. It might be we change the vehicles. It might be that we alter the access to the system or the like. And so we really want to talk about system failures rather than specific errors as these are said. Now, I've taken this directly out of the Austroads Safe System Infrastructure Compendium of Knowledge, which we've actually put onto your memory stick because there's wonderful information in there. One of the things I do slightly question personally is why they put these driver excess and driver inexperience out as these almost outside the system elements. I mean, I know that they did that because what we've currently got in our toolkit, we cannot understand how we can address some of this. Is very hard, but I don't think that that is outside the system. It's just that we haven't worked out how to alter that. So driver excess, I'm talking people going 200 kilometers an hour down the wrong way on the motorway, and driver inexperience being people who have no idea how to use the road system and the road rules and the like. But what I would say is that your system should be catering for these. In one sense, the driver excess, well, the vehicle just should not be allowing that that sort of behaviour to be happening. There should be interventions in place in a number of ways. So we should be trying to pull these into that system. I think we're going to try to continue to minimise driver excess, but hey, there's a lot of sort of DNA and evolution that we would be fighting against to stop some people taking these types of risk. And what we need to do is look for a system that alters any of that to either stop it happening or minimise any consequence. And just before we jump into an exercise and I take any questions that have popped in, I just want to alert you to the fact that human error comes in many forms. And it's not just the deliberate violation that I sort of mentioned in that 200 kilometre per hour down the wrong way on the motorway example. What we actually see are these huge variety of errors in the system, which can be slips, lapses, mistakes, unintentional violations. And I'm not going to go into these in detail, but just to say that a lot of the community and the media are fixated on the deliberate violators. And that makes a very juicy news story of a deliberate violator. The guy hopped up on ice driving high speed through the residential area and crashing, or these sorts of things. And unfortunately, the community starts to get the perception that that is our road safety issue. That's our trauma challenge. That is a big part of our trauma challenge, don't get me wrong, like these deliberate violators. But the actual majority sits in these unintentional violations, mistakes, lapses. There's a good report for it's error within the catering for error within the safe system, an Austroads report. I encourage you to have a look at that to try and understand a bit of this. But it really sort of shows that somewhere around the 35% of serious and fatal crashes sit in this category, and the rest sit in these. People generally going about their daily business trying to sort of do the best they can and just being human and making mistakes. I dare say that some of this is just being human, not human that we see as socially acceptable, but being human nonetheless. And we need to cater for that and deal with it in different ways. So Kathy, just before I introduce the little exercise we're about to do, any questions or comments come in?
Yeah, we've had some comments come in just in regards to those graphs earlier, and Michael's got some a whole load of information he says he can share. So what I might do is create a little spot in Schoology where people can share resources that they have with other people as well throughout the series. We've got a question here. Are we seeing any jurisdictions around the world implementing vehicle restrictions to limit potential excesses? For example, adding maximum speed cutoffs within vehicles? Yeah,
the Europeans have just embarked on that. Admittedly, it's 180 kilometers per hour is the sort of cutoff, so it's pretty high speed still, but it's a start. And those are the kind of things that are just absolutely no-brainers to people working in road safety. That why would we let vehicles go out that can go to these speeds on the public road network? There is no need for it, but it's a complex sort of wicked challenge with the big, these absolutely massive multinational vehicle sellers and the different freedoms that people demand, and so this is sort of like your big picture society challenge. It's a little bit like guns in the US and the like. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in the speed management section. We've got to maybe talk about some of the different interventions we can maybe implement and ease our way into that. But gee, yeah, it's a great question and a great point.
Just a couple more comments. Time to bash the media. It doesn't help that the media likes to focus on the extreme behaviours and violations. And Tim's responded with, he remembers doing a crash reduction study and basically discounting crashes involving drunk drivers because we couldn't do anything about it. Very much victim blaming situation, and glad that we've moved on from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same. Spend so much of my career just putting these crashes aside because I could find some minuscule human error that means that the infrastructure can't be to blame. And that's a very, very old traditional way of thinking. So let's do this little exercise. So thank you for those comments. Keep them coming in. And thanks for Michael for those curves and more information on that. It's great to continue to get that information. So this one's a pretty simple exercise. Some of you have done similar. It's about just connecting up the traditional way of thinking to the safe system approach. And so we go, you might go from victim blaming to maybe maximizing safe mobility. And so we will put up a poll where you'll be able to do this. But if you can't see the poll for some reason, you can just go, 1B, 2C, 3A, whatever you decide it is. So let's pop that poll up, Kathy, and we're going to have to move through this quickly because I'm a little bit behind where I should be. So have a go at that. We'll give you a couple of minutes. And remember, you're not being marked on this. It's just a way for you to solidify some of the thinking that we've gone through. All right, Kathy, I think we'll give them 5 more seconds. Hit submit. Have a guess at that last one if you need. just ended that and we've shared the results, but I think I'll actually go through this. I'll just have a quick look and then I'll go through this on the screen because it's a little bit easier. Looks like everybody's got a good way of thinking about it. I should have said that a couple of these probably could go to a variety of places, so don't get too concerned if you weren't quite aligning up with what I'm going to show you, because it could be some others. And I don't even. Sorry, bear with me a second here. Sorry, Kathy. Something's happened here. I see. Okay. My apologies. Kathy, just tell me whether you see my screen in a second.
Yes, you're on the right track.
Sorry. Okay, so victim blaming, we're now into that recognizing human error and minimizing its consequence and that shared responsibility. Emphasis on road user education and compliance. We've got more of an effort now to create a forgiving system. Not to say that we're ignoring road user education and compliance, it's just more focus is becoming on the forgiving system. Focus on crash reduction, enhanced focus on consequence, especially severe injury minimization. So those are a couple that could have probably gone to the other ways. So the idea of these four independent pillars doing their own things to this multifaceted system with interacting elements optimized jointly as an interaction. And mobility safety balance to maximizing safe mobility, where safety sets the precondition for mobility. And this quote from Ian Cameron is a great one, which was done on the sort of UN stage. We need a paradigm shift in road safety policy to stop the road death epidemic, and we need it now. It is unrealistic to expect that education and enforcement alone will bring the needed step change. Even road users who know and follow the rules make mistakes. A safe system creates an environment in which a simple mistake will no longer kill people. Kill or seriously injure people, it should be. But yeah, I think that sums things up nicely. All right, let's do a little exercise here. And I think I should give away a prize as we do this. So here's a bit of road, and you don't know the road probably. It's the Melbourne Highway, it's in Victoria. It's got a central barrier system that was recently installed. It took a surprisingly long time to get that central barrier system in this narrow median, flush narrow median. And it took an extraordinary long time. And there were a whole lot of things, blocks that came in the way in the process. So this is it as it's finished. It's a sort of 2+1 scenario, two lanes in this direction, 1 lane in this direction, and there's a bit more of it again. And what I'm going to ask you is, without knowing anything about this road, your challenge is going to be to write down into the chat reasons, although some of those things, roadblocks in the process of getting this project implemented. So through the design, the planning, and the like. So hurdles that they had to get over or get around to actually implement this. Now, I think I saw a hand up there, Kathy. Did somebody want
Yeah,
to...
Catherine's got her hand up, so...
You should be able to unmute yourself there, Catherine, and say hi if your intention was to talk to us.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button.
Right, hello.
Hello.
You have a question?
No, I clicked the wrong button. I didn't realize I had my hands up.
Oh, no. Oh, good. Well, good to talk to you. And there's the example of how you can talk if you would like to. You simply click the hand up and we find you and we'll let you do that. But I'll move Catherine away for now. So what you're going to do is, yeah, jot down anything you can think of that is would have potentially been a challenge. And this, you don't know much about this road at all, about the project, about anything really. But I want to see the sort of challenges that you think they would have gone through. And to give away a prize, if you match one of the random challenges that I write down, and you're the first one to do that, you'll win a prize.
Ken, question for you. Was there any lanes removed to do this?
No. There was not. There was a slight bit of widening and actually the addition of some lanes in some different locations. So let me see now if I can actually see the chat as well and monitor this. No. There we go. Okay. Right. Whoa, what we are seeing coming in. Oh, wow. Okay. We are getting lots of great responses. I dare say this is a group that have faced so many of these challenges in projects. So just gonna find the start of all this. So we've got everything from access points, which was definitely one of them, and constraining people's access. Maintenance were very unhappy with the idea that this might be hit and they'd have to maintain it, or the idea of how they might do traffic management when it's installed, when they're just trying to fix the roadside or the patching or the like. Budget challenges, the geometry of the road and the crests and the barrier system and sightline issues as well. The width of the median was certainly a challenge for a number of reasons. Talon, I think it is. I think a prize is going there, Kathy.
Okay, what did Talon say?
Is the narrow median. And so that was one of the ones that I'd put down for a bit of a specific reason. And we've got a hand raised. I'm not sure if Taylor wants to talk about that one.
I think I've mispronounced.
Well, we've probably mispronounced it completely, have we?
No, you haven't. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Look, what I was thinking is that they would have had to get some permission, because if they hit it, most likely, how far the median barrier would move into the next lane, or pretty much, whether there was enough offset, that would have been a departure most likely. So that's what I thought that was. They would have had to do some serious thinking about that.
And that is exactly the one that I had written down. So you get a prize coming with your certificate. So well done.
Thank you.
Not to say that these were necessarily the biggest issues, but I just picked a couple at random, and that was certainly one of them. So well done. Public not happy. Yes, a lot of that. We've got removal of trees. Yes, so the environmental impact. The audio tactile and the noise. I'm sure that one came up a huge amount because there's not too many houses around, but yeah. Wildlife was in there. So we had some people pointing out different concerns around that. The different flooding. So yes, the drainage, any drainage considerations, turnaround points. All were issues. Pretty much everything that you're saying there, plus a whole lot more, were issues and reasons why this project just could not be done. And it was left for a long time as this painted line down the middle of the road. A couple of the others that popped up, the motorcycle community, very actively lobbying against this project. And I'll talk about motorcyclists and barriers in a later module specifically. So the motorcyclists, this was an over-dimensional route and some challenges with some of the constraints there. So the point is that the list of reasons we can't do stuff is as long as you're armed. We can just have, you know, pages and pages. We could do this exercise all day, and you would continue to come up with new reasons why we can't implement this central barrier system. But the fact is, we know that that barrier system is going to save lots of lives and prevent lots of serious injuries if we want to keep the speeds up at this 100km/h mark. And we need to continue to push for that. And we need to work through all these issues and start to show the community that these things can work once they're in. They're not the end of the world, and we can get some wonderful safety outcomes. I've put a video on your memory stick of this road after going through those many years of headaches when it was hit. And the phone call went into the regional office and from somebody that was involved in this incident. And many of you work in this space, and you go, if you're going to get a phone call from the public, it's usually not going to be a good thing. But in this case, it actually was. And the member of the public said, you know, I drive that road a lot, and you put that barrier system in, and I reckon it saved my life. Somebody came directly at me, and the barrier stopped them and redirected them, and they didn't hit me. And they managed to then go and film these people. And what I've put is this 2-minute, 3-minute video into your memory stick and on Schoology, and I encourage you to watch it. It's this road. Some of you would have seen it, but it's a really powerful message to me about safe system infrastructure. One of the people fell asleep, all right? And the barrier did its job, and they've both walked away from this, and they're not bad people. There was a mistake, but the infrastructure, that part of the system, stepped in and catered for that mistake. So it's a really good example. Now, Kathy, questions, comments that have come in?
Yes, please. We've got maybe specifics. What was the width of the median?
Yeah, it's a good question. It went down to 1.8 in some spots. It was going to be even narrower than that, but there was it was a good 9 months worth of design committee meetings and the like, and the like. Quite a bit of it was 2.2. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people pushing for even narrower medians, and we have put some in Victoria. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of interest in central barrier systems and a lot rolling out in New Zealand, which is going to save a huge number of lives and prevent a whole lot of serious injury. And it comes with a few challenges, though, that we just need to continue to work through. Other questions? I'm going to keep ticking along. We've got half an hour to go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Michael's just commenting that they're struggling to get in 10-metre cross sections to minimise any road widening at the moment. And Tim's question, and I might need clarification, why would the median be concrete, or maybe why wouldn't it be concrete? I'm not sure how that one goes.
Yeah, so it's just a cost thing, trying to minimise cost in the project. So it's just a widening, and then the concrete footings with the sleeves for the wire rope system in this instance. I dare say I probably, if it was these days, I might use a back-to-back flexible W-beam system on this for a number of reasons. But back when this started its design, back-to-back flexible W-beam systems didn't exist. So that sort of shows you the amount of time that was taken to. But let's keep ticking along. And what I want to do now is just sort of very briefly touch on a few of the elements of the safe system that are not the roads and roadsides, which we're going to spend all of next module talking about. But the reason for this is that there is that interaction. This is an interactive system that we've got. So we've got interaction between all these elements, but also a safe system assessment is not just a blinkered look at the infrastructure. It's a genuine look at the infrastructure being planned and how it interacts with the whole system, and are there other elements of the system that can get us our desired outcomes, which is, you know, the virtual elimination of death or serious injury, or very, you know, great improvements in alignment with safe system principles. So that means that no longer are us infrastructure engineers and the like able to sort of put our blinkers on and just say, well, I'm just, you know, we're just pouring concrete and putting in barriers. We have to think holistically and as a system. And that's why I think the sort of diagram that and the way that these things are being presented in New Zealand is a great step forward in this. And I think you can continue to really highlight that interaction and the complex system which we are managing. So in terms of the road users themselves and how we can get the road users to perform the best they can, acknowledging that they are humans and they will make mistakes, but we know some of the things that work around the education, the encouragement, the enforcement, and the licensing system, or the entry into the system itself. And I put graduated licensing there, but it's could be a variety of things. We know the education works best at the young. I mean, that's not that's not unique to road safety. I mean, that's very well known. And if you can start to inject great road safety messaging into the young, it can actually feed up to their parents as well. So we see some wonderful stuff there. Young drivers are especially problematic in terms of road safety, high risk levels. We need them to have enough skill to be able to drive on the road network. But I do caution that if you send them to an advanced driver training where they go into learning to get out of skids and high speed maneuvers, they're more likely to be killed or seriously injured on the roads. That's a well researched worldwide thing. So be very careful on that. There are training courses that improve things in terms of understanding the road network, where the risks come from, but it's all very much done at normal driving pace. And giving the driving experience is really important. In terms of, here's a little sort of bit of insight into humans and their, I suppose, optimism bias, which is this thing that humans tend to have. And when we're talking about road safety, and take mobile phone use, for example, if we are to push and educate and try and get behavior change on an individual about their use of the mobile phone increasing their chance of being involved in a crash, they start to switch off and not take our messages on. The reason for that is that this is optimism, and the fact that we as humans feel that we're not going to be involved in the crash because we are controlling when we use the phone, and we only do it in safe when we feel it's safe. And there is this other sort of individual risk versus collective risk dilemma that we have in road safety, where in reality, the individual's risk using their mobile phone is minuscule. But what we're trying to do is this collective risk, which is the addition of all these minuscule risks across the network. So when we tell an individual, don't use your phone, it's risky, they don't believe us, and nor should they, because it's not risky for them. It's risky as a collective in our community. This works just the same in speed, by the way, and in fact, even more the case for speed. But what we can do is sort of lots of different interventions to make it socially unacceptable, to weed it out using technology, or to look for, I suppose, craftier ways to educate and get behaviour change. And this one I like from the TAC, Transport Accident Commission in Victoria, which is sort of this little diagram to show that if you use your mobile phone, your kids are going to use their mobile phone when they drive. Now that is a lever that a parent is very motivated to stop, and the sort of focus groups and research out of this appeared to show a much better behavioural change associated with mobile phones. So we need to start to alter our thinking slightly and stop thinking about talking to the community as though they are a collective. I mean, they are individuals and their behaviour is individual. We think about things as a collective. Some things that work: a whole school approach throughout their schooling as education is great. Combining with other partner activities like police and enforcement and even infrastructure in this holistic approach is great. Community education and supporting that. Really, we have highly motivated people in the community to improve road safety, and we need to guide them on evidence-based stuff. It saddens me to see people's time, effort, and their own money going into things that we know either don't work at all or actually make things worse in terms of road safety. Things like taking kids through trauma wards to sort of scare them into that's what'll happen if you don't drive safely. We know that doesn't work. It has spin-off negative effects. And the evidence is so comprehensive, but who's telling these people who are genuinely trying to do the right thing? So we need to continue to do that sort of stuff. Graduating the licensing, easing people into the system by stopping them undertaking risky activities, and targeting those motivated groups. Parents being the big one. I mean, parents are highly motivated and will do a lot to reduce the risks of their kids, like investing in safer vehicles for them and the like. Maybe forgoing that Bali holiday and buying a higher sort of safety rated vehicle. Action programs, so direct action, call to action is great in terms of road safety. And a few things that we know don't work. Fear tactics don't tend to work very well in road safety in terms of getting behaviour change. They can set a really good platform for legislative change or the like. But if you want to change people's behaviour, well, I shouldn't say that, because fear tactics actually do change people's behaviour, but not the people we're targeting. So we end up getting behaviour change initiatives out of the safest people anyway. And the people who we were trying to target with a lot of this stuff are immune to it. They feel it's never going to happen to them. They disassociate with it, and we see some different challenges there. Skill-based driver training, one-off events. These are things that we know don't work. They have some places in bigger picture policy and legislative changes, but driver simulators, nothing really being proven so far. I'm happy to be held wrong if somebody can find me some research on that. Membership or participation in car racing and go-karting clubs. Information only approaches, so just the stats on things, doesn't tend to change behaviour. Again, good platform for legislative change or infrastructure investment or the like. Now, don't take my word for this, okay? So what we've done is provided you some fact sheets and the big list of where the research is behind all of these statements I'm making, because I know some of you are going to go, well, I'm not sure about that. Have a read of the research. Make your own judgment on it. And so we've provided you with that in your memory stick and on Schoology. Kathy, it looks like you want to relay something to me.
Yes, I do. I get a bit anxious. Sarah's just written regarding education that they often used crashed cars as an example. Is this not effective?
So, yeah, I think you want to probably evaluate the specific activities that you're undertaking to determine that. I think it depends what you are trying to achieve out of that. If you're actually trying to get an 18-year-old to alter their driving behaviour based on the crashed car, it's probably not going to be as effective as some other techniques that are used. If you're trying to, justify a lower speed limit, or if you're trying to mandate some, lower blood alcohol content or these sorts of things, it may help in terms of pushing through a policy or a legislative change like that. But have a read of the fact sheets. We've got fact sheets specifically on young drivers in there and the research around that, because these are not new things that we're dealing with in terms of behavioural change and education and the like, and they're very well researched. It's just people often don't go to the research. They go to their personal experience and their gut feel. They go things like, I did an advanced driver training course. I learned to, do cadence braking and get out of high-speed skids. And I haven't been involved in a fatal or serious injury. Thus, that must be effective. And that's what we should be getting everybody to do. Ridiculous. I mean, you cannot base it on your personal. That is not a statistical sample. That is just pure chance. And so this is where we need to go to that evidence. And I've pointed you at that evidence. And I think I've got to, I've got to keep moving on. Here's a little diagram that, don't worry about the specifics of it. L plates in this jurisdiction have a supervising driver sitting next to them. P platers don't. These are the number of crashes on the side, and it goes down over time. The skills of the driver are very, very little in terms of the amount of trauma. The skills there are the same as the skills there. There's no real difference. It is all these other factors that are the real causes or challenges that we face. So I think encouragement is an area we have not paid enough attention to in road safety, incentivizing people to be safer. And there's a bit of evidence to show that paying people to be safe on the roads actually works with reduced registration or the like. Those sort of things seem to work a bit. If we can advertise a specific behaviour, that's much more effective than these general drive safely things. And there's been some effective stuff in terms of at least recall, people remembering stuff with the addition of comedy. And I actually think New Zealand's the world leader in this, and we all in the road safety community just steal your ads and copy them and put our logos on them because they're great and they resonate and they get the target audience that we're going for. So I don't think I need to tell you much more in this space, but I did put some other ads on your memory stick, which I think are good. Hard to tell from the research whether they actually change behaviour, but at least they resonate, people recall them. So we've had some wins there, I suppose. There's a lot more talk these days about the system and trying to change the system and trying to get people to understand that we're all part of this system. Here's one who's using your ad here. South Australia is using your ad here, talking about people making mistakes and trying to, not say that you'll crash, but say, hey, others are going to make mistakes, and if you're going a bit slower, you're going to have more time. Talking about human tolerance to physical force, how much force we can handle is a very big challenge with the community. And you might have seen Graham from the TAC. Graham's a life-size sculpture, the only human design to withstand the forces on the roads. Scarily real looking guy, Graham. And he's a way to interact with the kids and to get them to question a few things. It's a big long-term strategy and game, but really interesting. So hopefully Graham will get over the ditch at some point and you'll be able to say hi. Enforcement. Enforcement is one of these supporting things within the system. The police and the enforcement experts acknowledge they are there to support the system. They're not the be all and end all. But what we do see is if we're talking about very quick changes in our trauma stats, the enforcement levels is quite effective in terms of levering things up and down. And we want to think strategically about our enforcement effort. And there's both the specific deterrence and general deterrence, which are our levers in enforcement. Specific deterrence being, I have been fined by that, thus I'm not going to do it again. General deterrence being everybody knowing that they could be fined by different things. And visual presence is a great general deterrence reinforcement. And you know, there's lots and lots of stuff in this. But in a safe system assessment, one of the things we do is we ask a question there about, can enforcement still be conducted, and can it be conducted safely? And is there anything we could do in what was being planned to be built that could enhance the ability to undertake enforcement? So they're pretty interesting questions to ask in an infrastructure project, aren't they? Point-to-point speed cameras, wonderful initiative, which is basically take a photo of the number plate at one point, down the road, 5K, 10K, another photo of the number plate, average speed. Great initiative, much more palatable to the community as well. And really, there's some great, I suppose, creative ways of thinking about enforcement, which I'm very attracted to for a number of reasons. One being the idea of an alcohol interlock, which is obviously you blow into it, your car doesn't go if you've got any alcohol in the system. And these can be imposed on recidivist drink drivers. The reason I really like that is because it's addressing that specific behavioural risk that they have. Taking their car off them, crushing their car, finding them huge amounts, locking them up, can just encourage or continue a spiral in these people's lives often. So we see this social decline in these sorts of enforcement regimes. So if we can do that sort of stuff, I think it's great. Speed interlocks is where I think we need to go to. The technology is not our problem here. I mean, we can set speeds. We can set speeds to the speed zones on the network using GPSs and the like, so people just cannot speed. Or you could even just set some maximum speeds. So we can centrally monitor all this. We need to be pushing into these space in speed the way we have been with alcohol. Speed is not at the point of social unacceptability that drink driving has got to in most jurisdictions, and we need to get it to that point. There's one from, I don't know, 2007, I think it was. That device in my Vic Roads car was telling me what speed I was going, what speed zone I was in, and was beeping at me if I went over the speed limit. And it was all centrally monitored and tracked. And so you could see when you get back to the office exactly where you broke a speed limit. Not that I broke a speed limit. In terms of the vehicles themselves, wonderful advances in vehicle technology coming along, but it's, it's got its limitations. So even the frontal offset crash under the ANCAP system is only done at 64 kilometers per hour. And that's to prevent MAIDS 3 serious injury to the dummy. So, high level serious injury and fatality plus. But 64 kilometers per hour gets you 5 stars on the frontal. Pop in the newest side impact pole test speed to make sure that the dummy doesn't get. First one to put the right speed in there wins a prize. So that's the car is running at this speed, and if the dummy doesn't get an acquired brain injury, essentially, it gets 5 stars under this test. So it's done at a certain speed. There is pedestrian testing coming along, so it's got to pass some pedestrian tests, which are great advances. So we're seeing great advances, but there are limitations. Kathy, did anybody get that speed?
You're always testing me here, Ken. Not yet. Someone's very close. William's very close.
William wins a prize.
Oh, okay, good. Because
I got to keep moving. The answer is it's just gone from 29 to 32 kilometers per hour. So, I thought when I heard they were changing it, increasing the speed, I thought, okay, we're going to go up to some real significant speeds here. 32 kilometers per hour side impact to a pole gets a 5 star if on that test. So when we think about the speeds we travel around power poles and trees and the like, we're just miles away from it with what the vehicle is doing in terms of absorbing energy and the like. When do we get to this vehicle? The vehicle with no steering wheels, and we've taken the human, the fallible human out of the system. It's a long time away. It is a long time away, and there is just huge amount of death and serious injury to your community that will happen in the interim. We will get there sort of technology integrating in and safety features continually integrating in, but it's very complex and a long, long way away. So we have no ability to sit back and just wait for the vehicles to take over. We have to be putting a huge effort into a whole range of elements of the system. There is a little bit of stuff in the Safe System Assessment Framework that looks at the vehicles of the future and asks you these questions about, hey, is what's being built going to be read by the vehicle of the future? You know, is it going to be, you know, are the comms all good? Is the vehicle going to be able to drive itself around what you're planning to build here? So some interesting questions. We've got a lot of work in the roads that cars can read space. And I dare say some of the young designers out there will be getting more and more into designing for these sorts of vehicles than the human eye. Yeah, it's still a long journey. We know that the auto emergency braking, for example, is going to be a great initiative, and not just because it stops crashes, but like that one that hopefully streamed through for you, the actual speed of impact will be lower in a lot of crashes. So we'll still get crashes that happen, but the braking will have kicked in at some point. And speed. Speed is this most critical element of the safe system. And it's critical for a number of reasons. One being basic physics, but there's a couple of others as well. So these are the sort of classic diagrams showing you that speed to crash impact speed, so travel speed to impact speed is not a linear relationship at a set distance. So here's something at 45 meters, whatever it is, tree, pedestrian, whatever. And if the travel speed is along here, so at 60 kilometers per hour, we see that this just touches that object. 10 kilometers more in terms of travel speed, and it hits at 46 kilometers per hour. So not only 10 kilometers per hour more. So it's not a linear relationship, it's an exponential relationship. And in fact, it's an exponential power relationship. It's a power relationship for fatal, a fourth power relationship for fatal, and a third power relationship for serious injury in terms of percentage change in travel speed and change in the percentage of those crashes. So don't get too worried about the maths on that. Just take the message that small increases in speed have big changes in the higher end severity crashes, the fatal and the serious. And in fact, we see that all crashes comes in at actually a second power relationship on that. So there's some big benefits to small reductions in speed. The public perception on speed limit is very challenging. And again, New Zealand doing huge amount of groundbreaking work in this space, so I don't need to spend long on it. Just to say though that we're in a huge challenge. Here's some attitude research on speed limits, actually from Tasmania. So, but it's sort of saying that half the community doesn't believe that reducing the speed limits will actually reduce crashes. Males being much worse in terms of that as well, and some age breakdowns. So we've got a lot of work to do in that, convincing the public on speed limits, how we go about changing them. I popped this diagram in, which I have just put into the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 3, which is speed limit and speed management, to reinforce the importance of speed. And this is the way that the Swedes sort of think about it. They say we can create a safe road transport systems with whatever you've got. We just filter it all through speed. So tell us, you know, what people do in terms of seatbelts and the like, what your vehicles are and your roads, and then we'll just work out what speed is appropriate for that. And we can create that safe system. And the challenge we've got is how do we get people to actually travel at those speeds that we know work. A couple of things explaining, so we can achieve, sorry, I've just pressed stop. We can achieve these lower speeds or these more appropriate speeds in a variety of ways. And the infrastructure itself can play a great role, and the speed limits, as I think a lot of you know. So we can combine them both. Explaining why a speed limit exists helps in acceptance in a lot of scenarios, and protection of vulnerable road users has a better acceptance level at this stage. I better keep moving on very quickly here. I've got lots of examples, but I want to just finish by showing you this, a little window into what we're doing in the next module. And then if we do have any little bits of time at the end, I can come back and talk about a few other things. So traditional international definition of risk is likelihood times consequence. So likelihood times consequence. Or probability times severity. In safe system assessments, we like to talk about risk equals exposure times likelihood times severity. The exposure there has been drawn out of likelihood, and the exposure is the volume of vehicles, the number of pedestrians, the number of cyclists, the number of motorcyclists. So exposure and likelihood and severity are so important to us understanding what fits into each category to do a safe system assessment. And that's what we're going to spend a whole lot of time on. And I dare say by the end of this course, you will be so sick of me saying, well, is that altering the severity, the likelihood, or the exposure? Because any changes we make in the road environment, I'm asking, what is that influencing? Is it influencing one of those or multiple ones of those? Exposure can be things like closing roads down, blocking off areas like that, separating vulnerable road users from passenger vehicles. They're not exposed to those passenger vehicle crashes or the like. Likelihood are things like wide center lines we heard Fabian talk about. They reduce the likelihood of a head-on crash happening because there's a little bit more space, but they're not doing anything for the severity of these crashes when they do happen. In fact, our whole traffic signal setup is all about likelihood, trying to stop the likelihood of people crashing. They're doing virtually nothing for the severity of crashes, and in some cases increasing the severity of crashes. In fact, a lot of our traditional suite of things that we've done in the road environment are trying to address the likelihood of crashes. The severity of crashes we've been getting better at, still a lot of work to do. Interestingly, our automotive engineering friends and colleagues are far better at thinking about the severity of crashes than we are. I mean, they were coming up with seatbelts, airbags, crumple zones, way earlier than we were really thinking about significant changes to the road environment for the severity of crashes. I mean, if the infrastructure engineers were in charge of the vehicles, we'd be doing more things to try to alert drivers to potential crashes or the like, which would be good, but we have to acknowledge this severity as well. And so things like slowing vehicles on the approach to conflict points, altering the angles at conflict points, and road safety barriers, so deflecting that energy, dissipating it over time along the barrier system. These are severity reduction techniques. A barrier actually increases your number of crashes, run-off road crashes, because people leave the road and they hit it. they've been involved in a crash, whereas some of them may have been able to recover and get back on the road. But the severity of crashes goes way, way down. So we're in a much better position from having that barrier system in. We won't do the little quiz, Kathy, because we're just about out of time. And it's only one question anyway. And you've got some quiz questions in Schoology that you will actually be marked on. So I want you to do those. But we've got to a good point here. Kathy, any burning questions or comments that came in before we close off today's session and continue the discussion later on?
Yes, thank you, Ken. So earlier, when you talked about young drivers and what works and what doesn't work for them, there was a comment from Adam about in Europe, some insurance companies will reduce young driver premiums if they fit a black box into their car to monitor their driving. And also Tim mentioned that people like to learn through stories, like Fabian's story of the seagull needing to be a roundabout.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that stuff I was talking about in terms of data and information only approaches and things that we try to convince the public with are very solid science and data and the like. And yeah, they're much more influenced by these stories and those sorts of things a lot of the time. The insurance companies and leveraging things that way, I think, is a wonderful initiative. I'll talk to you more about motorcycle safety later down the track. I think that there's huge challenges in motorcycle safety that we need to start to genuinely discuss, and how we play that out will be interesting, and whether or not sort of insurances and the like are one of the mechanisms to assist in that approach. But certainly those black boxes and those sorts of things, so the insurance company understand the risk levels being undertaken. A lot of insurance companies have just amazing data that they don't readily share because it's their commercial interest, but they'll pop in your postcode and they pretty accurate on risk levels and insurance premiums in those areas for a raft of things, including road crash data. It's a very interesting space. Anything else there, Kathy?
So just a question about the public's attitude about speed reduction, reducing crashes. Did they ask a variation on the question about reducing the severity of outcomes, not just crashes?
Yeah, they did. They exactly asked that, and I've popped that actually into your notes. I didn't put it in the slides because I knew I'd run out of time. But the question was asked, will speed limit reductions reduce the severity of crashes? And there was more people that said yes on that. So have a look in your notes, and you can even find that research online and delve into that in much more detail. I mean, I've got so much that I'd love to discuss about speed limits and speed management and that whole fascinating web that it is. But this course is really trying to hone us into, I'll use that safe system assessment tool in the same way and get the best value out of it. So we'll bring ourselves to that a bit more. And next week's really about honing into the infrastructure and its impact on severity, likelihood, or exposure, because that's really what you have to do in a safe system assessment, is quantify any impacts on severity, any impacts on likelihood, any impacts on exposure, and then holistically tie that up in an interactive system which has many different elements. So I'm looking forward to the next session with you, where we're going to delve into some of this. Please feel free to shoot me an email. Please, share that information. Kathy will set up that folder. It's great that you can share information. Do your quiz. Try and get that done before next module. That'd be really great if you could. And we'll see you about 3 minutes before the start of next module for a chance to win a prize.
Excellent work, Ken. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you Thursday morning.
Bye.